Recording is in progress. All right. So I just want to thank everybody for coming on here. I know there's a lot of confusion and a lot of questions, and I apologize for that. We had to get things out pretty quickly as Carl was unable to log on until last Monday, I believe it was, and we were going out of town, a lot of stuff going on, so we wanted to get some stuff out quickly. And I know that created some confusion, and I do apologize for that, but we set this up so we can go over what we're planning on doing and answer questions and address concerns. I know there's a bunch of concerns out there. Nothing's really written in stone. We can work with people's issues and resolve them. But obviously, we need to discuss what's going on here. So I think, John, are you on? Are you ready to go?
I'm here. How are you?
Good. Good.
Fantastic. How many people are on?
We got
It's like 12.
besides me, you, and Carl, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 9.
9? Yep. All right. Well, hello to everybody, all 9 of us. Brian had gone through and tipped off. There was a ton of confusion about what had happened here, and I want to start by first and foremost, I want to thank Carl and introduce Carl. Carl went through last minute, and he stepped up for us, and he took on the position of the popcorn colonel. I'm very thankful, first and foremost, that he went and did it. But second of all, he brings a lot of experience to the table. I don't want to make it like he was the only parent that went through and put his hand up in the air just to get the deal satisfied. He was the only parent that put his hand up in the air, and he has done this before. He explained a little bit of that in the email, but part of the changes aren't just to go through and say, hey, this is what we're doing and how we're doing it. He ran in a pack, and I'm gonna kind of screw up some of the numbers, but he ran in a pack prior to that had popcorn obviously required to sell, and they were successful with it. So he'll touch base on a couple of those different things, but I wanted to go through some stuff first and foremost. So we got a couple of questions from a couple of parents about different parts of this process that we're going to go through tonight quickly. First and foremost, Carl will be the colonel. He will be the point man. He will be in charge. And then obviously, he'll run stuff by the pack. He'll run stuff by the leadership. He'll run stuff by the committee. And we're going to adapt a little bit. The one thing that I don't want to let go here for any of the people that are on this call and anybody in the pack. It's super, super important to understand that we're coming out of a very, very different time. So we're coming out of a time where we generally had 40 plus kids going into September, 40 plus scouts. This year, I believe the number right now, I believe is 21.
I think it's 26.
Okay. So 26 is where we're at now. We're typically used to 40 to 45 plus. We've tickled 61 as a total pack for scouts. We're not looking as a pack right now to recreate the wheel with all of the scouts. We're looking to get out of the pandemic and still understand that there's families out there, there's parts of the community that are out there that haven't completely opened up, and some haven't changed their ways, and some haven't changed their mentality, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that we have to turn around and say everything's going to be, hard-nosed and this is the way we're going to operate. So there were some changes that were made, and it seems pretty effective for what we have right now. So it fit Carl's situation. It seemed like it fit the pack situation. And I want to be the first one to say one of the questions was this a committee decision? And I'm going to say specifically, I will take the weight for this. This was a decision that Brian and I made 24 hours before the decision had to be made. So no, this was not a committee decision. No, this was not a leadership decision. But I do want to say this. There's nobody else out there that stepped up. So everybody's busy. Everybody's coming out of the pandemic. All of the leaders have their hands full. All of the committee have their hands full. And I'm pretty confident most parents have their hands full. But it doesn't mean that we just shut down. We had to make a decision, so we did. Brian and I do have the ability to go through and make decisions when we have to. That's why we're in the positions that we're in. I think we made a great decision, and I support a lot of what Carl has. We've had a lot of really good conversations in the last week, both generated by the questions and generated by the need for how we're going to carry forward. So I think that's all important stuff. The second situation that I wanted to go through is I'm going to touch base on a couple of these points. Then Carl's got a PowerPoint presentation that we're going to go through that we can talk about quickly. He can go through some information. Then we'll go through and have some questions and we'll finalize. There are some changes in the platform that I want to initiate, and he'll go in depth, but these were some of the questions that stuck out to me. Are we having show and sells anymore? And why is the popcorn kernel not booking them? So before I had talked to Carl about the email that he had sent out, I made 2 phone calls myself. And I'm pretty confident no parents out there went and made these phone calls, but I did. I called Lowe's on Transit Road, which was a very high producer for us in the past. And I called Value on Dick Road, which was also a very high producer for us in the past. Neither one of them are willing to accept the responsibility right now to have a show and sell up front. It didn't mean that they're never going to do it. It doesn't mean that they may change their mind later on. When I had asked last week, they were not willing to go through and do that. They had differing reasons for their business models, but all of them I understand. So to go through and say, hey, this blame was on Carl or the pack because we're not having show and sells, it's going to be difficult in the community right now to get them. Not impossible, but difficult. One of the other situations that I came across was with Kelly Loftus and with Katie Klaber, both of them as prior popcorn kernels. The last year that they did this, they had a huge struggle getting vendors to commit. They had trouble with time slots. They had trouble with, because we were a Cub Scout pack, they had trouble filling the commitments from our pack. So when we don't fill the commitments from our pack and we've signed up with a vendor to go through and do it, why are we going to push so hard to get that done? It just seems like a negative for me. So I didn't really feel comfortable putting Carl into that position or having him to bear that burden. So part of what happened was between Brian mostly and Carl and I this week, Brian had a couple of really good ideas that are going to get presented for possible show and sells. What I want you guys to think about for the show and sells when we go through and do this, it's as easy as Brian made it. He reached out. He knows some people. He was able to make some contacts. It's different than what we're used to, but he was potentially able to do something. So a lot of what we're going through right now, guys, everybody's got to have an open mind. Everybody's got to think a little bit harder as to where they can participate more. Some numbers that just came to me before this meeting. In the year 2019 to 2020, we spent $13,482 as an expense. The total expense for the pack was $13,482, I believe. If we go through and we take $13,482 and we divide it by the number of scouts that we currently have, which I thought was 21, I believe it comes up, I don't have a calculator in front of me, but I believe it was $260 or $270 a scout. I don't see any fundraiser out there right now, including popcorn, that's going to specifically generate $260 to $270 per scout. So I think popcorn right now is a very, very important fundraiser. And besides me thinking that it's important, it's required by council and it's required by Scouts of America that we sell popcorn. Do they require how much we sell? No. Do they substantiate how little we can sell? No. But we have to go through and sell as a pack. So my first situation, and we're going to have questions about this later and we'll discuss it openly. I am not for a buyout at all. I don't think anybody in this pack should be able to buy out. It's a required fundraiser by the council. So I think everybody should have to participate. I do think it's our responsibility as a pack to provide help for those scouts to attain a goal, though. If you're going to have to sell popcorn, I believe as a pack, we should be able to help you. Now, we've gone through and we have some certain ideas where we can do that. So me personally, I'm standing on the side when everybody brings up buyout, whether it was $40, $60, or the $150 that I originally computed. I don't believe in a buyout at all. I don't think we should be able to. The $150 number that I came out with for a buyout was very simple. Carl went to a meeting. When he got back from the meeting, he told me that the council, their initial expectation for our pack was for each scout or for our scouts to average $500 per scout in sales. That to me sounds like a big number, but it's an average. So I took $500. I took 30%, which is what they give us for the gross profit on those sales. And that came up with $150. If council expects us to sell $500 per scout and it's going to generate 30%, then the expectation is the buyout should be $150 per scout to go through and do that. Now, if I take the $150 per scout required and I look at $260 or $270, which is required for us to attain a budget that we used in 2019 and 2021, we are significantly short, because the $13,482, I believe, had 50 plus scouts. So we're not even taking into consideration the fact that we're trying to attain the $13,500 number. We're simply saying average per scout is $260 to $270. If we were to take $13,500 that we spent and we were going to divide it by the $21 or 21 scouts, 26 scouts, you would see that that number almost doubles, if not more. So
John, the
my
costs
question-
are going to be down with less scouts, though. We're not going to be doing $13,000 if we don't have 50 scouts. We have 21. You
I
have to take that
understand.
as well.
Hang on. I understand. So the idea right now is we don't have a hard number, but I believe, and I'm not, is Pete on this call?
Shannon is.
Okay.
Pizza can't.
I understand. I wondered if he ducked in for it. So when Pete was Cub Master, one of his goals was to go through and figure out an average cost per scout to go through and put somebody through the program. So as a new member, we could go through and say, you're going to join this pack today. It's September, and you guys are going to go through and you're going to pay X dollars for your scout over the year. Now you have the opportunity to fundraise. You have the opportunity to do this. You have the opportunity to pay out of pocket. The number that we generalized in our head, and we weren't able to get it concrete, was $300 a kid. So my question to everybody is not just specific for popcorn, like we did. Kelly, if you're on the call, you went through and did, the pierogies. Brian had gone through and done wreaths and gone through and done poinsettias. He had also done Christmas trees. Each time that we had gone to committee and asked about how much of that money was going to be given to the pack, we went through and put it to the scouts for those fundraisers. So the situation has to change as a culture right now, that if we do a buyout, if we go through and sell popcorn, and we decide that we're going to go through and do some other fundraisers right now, a portion of that money automatically has to go to the pack on every fundraiser. It has to, because there's no other way that we can substantiate the funding. So right now, if we spend $13,482, I just asked for a general number, guys. I didn't get it broken out. I don't know if that includes summer camp. I don't know if that includes money that was returned from summer camp. I don't know if that's money that was paid, by parents for summer camp. I don't know that. I'm thinking that was just check disbursement. So we'd have to look and see what that breakdown is. But go into this meeting right now for popcorn, understanding that in 2019, 2020, we went through and we spent $13,500 on 50 plus kids. Now, just take the number for the average, 260 to 270, to keep it apples to apples when we have this conversation.
Hey,
Does anybody have any questions? Yep.
Yeah, we had a question. Do we know how many scouts have gone for the buyout in the past? Do we have scouts that actually buy out, or is this?
We do.
Okay.
And to my knowledge, and I'm going by memory because I don't have the hard number in front of me, it is less than 5 per year. And I will tell you that generally the ones that do the buyout, we have to chase them to get their money because it's generally not in their account. Those are generalizations. If somebody's on the call to call me out, we can go through and figure it out, specifically.
No.
But the idea right now,
The idea right now
is
worth talking about. Do we have families that actually do the buyout, or?
It's not common right now. And I think, again, based on the numbers that we have, Carl's going to touch on some stuff about the sales.
Okay.
And talk about a couple of the sellouts, like for the show and sells, that type of stuff. And I think we're all going to end up at the same conclusion. Who just said what for me?
John, it's Taylor.
Yep. Taylor.
That 13,000 includes only the budget for camp materials. It does not include the budget for Scout camp itself, only because that is paid for by the Scout families. So that 13, so I can tell you, in case anybody's wondering what that 13,000 was spent on, that $13,000 was spent on recruitment, trunk or treat, woodworking, Christmas party, t-shirts, Pinewood Derby, the museum sleepover, blue and gold dinner, bridge crossing, awards. We didn't have a last meeting or a rocket launch. We didn't actually go to summer camp that year, but the money was budgeted for it. It also would go towards next year's 4th of July parade, operating expenses, the Leave No Trace Fund, and registration, as well as training for some of our leaders.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So for that's basically right now all the background information that I want to go through. I think the next move is to have Carl go through and do his part of the presentation. Then we can talk about general questions, and then we'll finalize with the buyout if you guys are all okay with that.
I think I made you a co-host, Carl, so I believe you can share your screen. If not, I'll make you the host and you should be able to.
Okay, the important part was unmuting myself. Okay, can everyone see that screen now?
Yep.
All right. Okay, so this is just it was supposed to be a quick presentation. There's probably too many slides for it to be quick, but this is just an overview of the popcorn program. I think there's probably a lot of information in here that most of the people on the call don't necessarily need, because you've probably been involved in selling popcorn before. I don't know if we have anyone on the call that's not at least been with the pack for at least one popcorn sale. But the first few slides are just sort of a rehash of the email that was already sent out, just to kind of explain what we're doing this year. And there we go. Okay. So, one of the big parts of the email was regarding ordering, storage, and transfers. And, this was born out of the fact that, I do not have room at my house to store popcorn, nor do I want to store popcorn, nor do I think it's a good idea to store popcorn. In the pack that I was with years ago, we did that, right? And we had a ton of popcorn in the basement. It wasn't well kept track of. People from the church kind of took it at will. It seemed like we always had a lot of popcorn sitting around, not getting sold. It just never made any sense to me. After that, we kind of moved to a system where we get all the popcorn in and we distribute it to all the scouts so that they can take it and go sell it. Having it all sit at my house is not a good idea. Having it sit at the pack is not a good idea. At the church is not a good idea. So the general idea here is we also don't want to have lots of product to return at the end of the season, right? The pack will take back whatever you don't sell. The council will take back whatever you don't sell, with the exception of a couple products this year. But everything will run much smoother if we, kind of decide what we want to sell, order that much product, sell most of it, and have to return little to no popcorn to the council. And so the idea here is, I want everybody to kind of come up with an idea of what you think you want to sell, send me your orders, and hopefully when I combine them all, we can send that to council, and council will accept that quantity of popcorn for us to pre-order, and I can distribute it to everybody, and you will have your Scouts popcorn at your house, and you go out whenever you want to go door to door, to go to a show and sell, however your preferred method of selling is. But the idea is there's not really any pack popcorn. Brian and I have discussed that, once we get everybody's orders, if it's a low value and the council will allow us to order some more, we'll top off that order, and we will have some, small room at the church to store some product. But that's going to be when people run out of product, we can get you more, or if we get some new Scouts this year, maybe at the beginning of the year, we can give them some product to sell as well. It's not, I don't want it to just be a big warehouse where, every week somebody's coming in asking me for more product, or having large quantities of product they have to get to show and sells and back home. So the idea is, if you're out doing door-to-door sales, or if you're at a show and sell, you're bringing your own popcorn to sell with your Scout.
And Carl, we also discussed yesterday the possibility of obtaining more product at some point from the council if we do start to run out of things.
Right. And I think the council's always allowed that, right? So if we sell all of our popcorn products and we need more, they've traditionally had a couple times during the season where we can order more popcorn. I haven't seen any dates on that or specifics on that, but I'm sure they'll do something similar. But I know in the past, they're not too keen on us placing an order for more product when we still haven't sold the product we have, right? And they're the proof of that is, well, we haven't turned in any money to the council, or we've only turned in 25% of the money for the product that we've already taken. So those things are possibilities, but they're not always guaranteed. I suppose if we get to that point, the other thing is we don't want folks sitting on popcorn, right? If you tell me you want $500 worth of popcorn and I give you $500 worth of popcorn, I would hope by the time we get to our first meeting, you've sold some of it already, right? If we're at our first meeting, second meeting, and you still have $500 worth of popcorn and somebody else needs more popcorn, we're going to ask for that product back, so it's getting sold. We don't want it stored. We want it, getting out and getting sold. And no transfers of product between Scouts. Obviously, that's not a hard and fast rule. There will be some throughout the year. I don't want different families trading between each other and then we having to figure out, where the product is or who has it. Realistically, if you were going to return product, you bring it to the pack and then we get it out to another Scout that needs it, if that's the case. So for the pre-order show and sell, this is coming up quick. Brian sent out an email and, our orders are due. I have to get them in, I believe, next Monday. So I've given everybody till this Friday to tell me what you want for your Scout or Scouts, so we can put the whole order together and get it into council by Monday. And again, the preference is, keep cases together. Tell me how many cases of a product you want. Don't tell me I want, 1 cheddar cheese corn and 3 microwavables. Like, tell me I want 1 case of this, 2 cases of that. It makes the distribution much simpler.
And just to clarify, when we do return our products, they don't have to be in the full cases, right?
So when individual Scouts bring them back to the pack, they don't have to be in full cases, but in order for us to return them to council, they have to be a full case. No, I mean, any unsold product at the end of the season You guys return to us, and we'll figure out, what we can package into a full case and get back to the council. Obviously every year there's some products that are left over that we'll figure out what to do with them. Maybe there's some other motivated sellers. Maybe we can use those to fill orders. It generally works out pretty well. I'm not too worried about that. But I did want to clear up that no one here is laying out any money beforehand. No individual scout or family, and not the pack, right? We're getting all of this product that we're ordering from council on consignment, and whatever we don't sell, with the exception of a couple of products, we can return. Those couple of products, there's 2 different products this year that are, that if we order them pre-sale and we have product left over, the council will not take back. That's the 6-pack microwavable butter popcorn and the Buffalo Bills caramel corn. The Buffalo, or the 6-pack of microwavable butter is just available during show and sell. You can't place orders for it. The Buffalo Bills caramel corn is available during pre-order, and you can also place orders for it. But anything that we've ordered for pre-sale will not be taken back by the council. So that's, everybody should have received that email with the order sheet in it. Even if you don't want popcorn, please send an email back, say, don't order me anything. And then we just know that we're all covered. The next one, storefront show and sells. I'll be straight with you. I hate storefront show and sells. I don't think they're worth it. I know everybody has their own method that they prefer. I don't like it. There's a lot of setup that goes into it. Even if you're just doing it for yourself, there's a lot of setup that goes into it. You have to call the store ahead of time. You have to find a store that's going to allow it this year. That's an extra little screwball that's thrown into it. You generally have to commit to a certain time. In my experience, I get home from work and I talk to my kids. Hey, you guys want to go sell popcorn? Sure. And we grab a wagon and we go. I don't have to have anything set up beforehand. We just go to another neighborhood that we haven't hit yet, and we can do it on our own time whenever. There's no organization that's needed. Especially when you get into getting multiple scouts involved with an individual sale location. From my perspective, it's always been more cumbersome, and you don't get as much bang for your buck. John had touched on the $500 per scout. I mean, that to me, that sounds like nothing. Honestly, $500 of popcorn is 5 hours. I can take my son in a wagon and we pick, one day, multiple days, we walk for 5 hours, $500, easy. If anyone needs any help with that or would like to come out with us and see how we do it, reach out to me, let me know. I'd be happy to meet you with your scout and my son, and we can kind of go through what we do. But if you guys really want to do show and sells, by all means do them. I just don't want to get involved in setting them up. That's the God's honest truth. I don't want to have anything to do with them.
All right, Carl, to add to that, I've gone ahead and spoken with my mother. For those that you know, she owns Northtown Garden Center in Tonawanda. She has agreed to allow anyone from the pack to come out at any time they want to sell in front of there. If they want to do show and sells, just let me know so I can let her know that you will be there. You can work an hour, 2 hours, all day if you want. Unfortunately, this time of year is not their busiest time of year, but they still do a decent volume out there. I think you'll do well. So anytime between now and November you want to sell, let me know. and you're more than welcome to go there. It's on Sheridan Drive in Tonawanda. I'm also going to be working with her to find out when they're going to have events or sales and stuff like that, and see if we have an interest for setting up a full day there. I know a lot of our families are used to the show and sells, and they want to continue with them. So that's what I have arranged. If you're interested, just let me know. The other thing is we sold out in front of the church last year on a weekend, and we did decent. We did a couple $100 for a few hours. So if there's an interest there, I'll also ask the church if we can sell out in front this year also.
All right, thanks, Brian.
Yep.
All right, moving on to the next slide here. Just some key dates. And by the way, I put together a like a parents packet that's got all of the information that I've got in the slides here and more. And I've got an update for that, Brian. I'll send that to you after this meeting, and we can get that out to everybody.
Yeah, I will be. Okay. Yeah, I'm free that day. That should be good.
Oh, the August 2nd you're talking about? Or?
Yep, yep.
All right, great. Yeah, so this is a little confusing. From the council, they tell us that the popcorn sale begins August 1st. But I don't think we'll have any official order forms, or we certainly won't have any product to sell on the 1st. But you can apparently start online sales, door-to-door sales if you get an order form. It seems like I'm guessing they say the district popcorn materials distribution, that's on August 2nd. And like Brian just said, you can volunteer to go there. That's fantastic. I would assume that's the place where we're going to get our first set of order forms for the pack. Our pack, August 4th. I don't have a calendar in front of me. Oh, I'm sorry. So that's Wednesday. For some reason, I thought it was Monday. So the show and sell orders due Wednesday, August 4th. So I guess I have a few days after this Friday if I don't get all your orders.
Hang on, it's got Wednesday, August 2nd and Wednesday, August 4th. So
yeah, one of those days might be wrong on there. Yeah.
Monday's August 2nd and Wednesday's August 4th.
Okay. Yeah. So looks like I've got a bunch of Wednesdays in there that don't belong, but I think the dates, the August 1st, August 2nd, August 4th, August 20th are all correct. So in any event, we can start selling at the beginning of August. We're not going to get our show and sell products until August 20th. So you're more than welcome to start, doing door-to-door orders at the beginning of August. And then the pack show and tell returns, we need to get those back to the pack on October 17th. So that's any unsold product is going to come back to the pack on August 17th. And then all popcorn sales end October 29th. And I'll get more information to everybody about when you need to get your final orders into me. So then November, the pack take order distribution. So that's anyone that needed orders, needed more popcorn to fill their orders. That's when we'll be doing that. And then, so Scout family popcorn distribution. So that's, if you're taking any orders and people want to know when product's going to be in for those orders, between November 14th and the 25th, be around the time that you'd be delivering it to them. And then all popcorn payments are due to the pack by November 26th. That's because the pack needs to make a payment to council right at the beginning of December. And like I said, in the parent packet, there's a whole bunch more dates, and anything that parents needed to be aware of is highlighted in yellow in that packet. Sales pitch, it's pretty simple. It's kind of the one that we've been using for a long time. I don't know if you guys have your own sales pitch, but this is the one me and Charlie use when he goes to the door. Hello, my name is Charlie. I'm a scout with Pack 554. We are selling popcorn to help raise money for our pack. You can help us by trying some of our delicious popcorn. You will help us, won't you? And I'd have to say, the first time I ever heard that, I thought it was the cheesiest thing ever. The first time I ever saw the cost of the popcorn, I thought it was ridiculous. But after the first 2 or 3 doors you knock on and your scout's in his uniform and he delivers that sales pitch, I'm to this day, I continue to be amazed at how many people buy Scout popcorn. It just blows my mind. Quick peek at the this year's order form. And here are all the products. These are the 3 products that will not be available for show and sell. They are take order only, and it makes sense. They're large tins that would be kind of difficult to carry around. They're all chocolate, so they'd be melting. So we'll wait till the fall to get these. These are the additional tins that are available for show and sell. We've got the 3-way cheesy tin, super caramel crunch with nuts, cinnamon crunch, and white cheddar cheese. And then the Buffalo Bills tin. And again, we can get these for pre-sale, but anything we don't sell during pre-sale, we can't return to the council. However, I don't think it's going to be an issue on this one. I think that one's a pretty good seller. I think we'd be okay, going heavy on that one. Microwavable products. They have, I feel like this is it's weird flavors when we switch to Camp Master. I feel like the extra butter and the roasted summer corn are pretty similar. I'm kind of disappointed we haven't gone back to like a butter light. I feel like we had a lot of customers that liked that in the past, but there's 3 options here. There's the movie theater pack, the roasted butter corn, and the kettle corn, the sweet stuff. And then they have this additional product this year that's a 6-pack microwave butter. This one I'd be a little leery about ordering since it can't be returned. I would, if you're interested in it, go for it, but I'm probably staying away from that one. And then here are all the other products. We have a couple different types of nuts, trail mix, a purple popping corn jar, and a caramel popcorn bag. I guess, I know the $10 caramel popcorn is a pretty big seller. Mm-hmm. I am a little worried that it's the only one in a bag. I know that's always been a problem in the past when people have returned products. Damage to bags is pretty common. I like that all of the other products are in either a box or a tin or a jar. Not crazy about the bags myself. And then donations. Oftentimes you knock on someone's door and they don't like popcorn, they don't want popcorn, but they want to support scouting, and they ask if they can give a donation, and the answer is always, of course, but it's not always in $30 increments, so you just hang on to it until you get to $30, and we put it towards a military donation. Prizes, pretty similar to years and past years. Standard prizes, your scout just picks a prize at the level that they get to, or multiple prizes from equivalent levels. Like say they sell $250 in popcorn, they can get 1 prize from the level 4, or they can get you know, one prize from level 2 and one prize from level 3. Those are the standard prizes. And then for the additionally standard prizes are sale patches. Every scout that gets at least one sale gets a patch. Everyone who sells at least one military donation gets a military pin, and anyone that sells online gets an online sale pin. So then onto the special prizes. You know, similar in years past, weekly fill sheet. Once you fill a sales sheet, you can take a photo of it and email it to Otto, or you can fax it to Otto at the Scout office. And for every sheet you have a chance to win a weekly prize drawing. Moving on from that, there's the $750 club. As soon as you hit $750, it could be in the first week, you bring your proof of $750 worth of sales to the Scout office, and they will give you a choice of one of these 3 prizes. That's sort of an immediate prize. The $1,000 club, any kid that gets to $1,000 will be entered in a chance to win one of these 3. I thought that was a little odd that it's just a chance. The $3,000 club, that one looks pretty nice. You know, you get 5% back on a Visa debit card. So your Scout hits $3,000 in addition to the other prizes that he already got, gets a $150 Visa debit card to spend wherever he wants. And then the big ones, top seller in each district gets a Maid of the Mist boat tour and 1-night hotel stay. That sounds pretty nice. I'm not exactly sure where we're going to be this year for a top seller. I feel like last year's top seller was probably attainable, but this year, since we're kind of out of COVID, we might be back up into some ridiculous numbers. So I'm not sure where that's going to get us. And then top selling unit, if we are the top selling unit in the district, we get a party for the whole pack at Bounce or Get Air. Get Air Bounce Party, right? Okay, so all right, so commission sheet, and John and Brian, please jump in and correct me if any of this is wrong, but my understanding of it is the commission that we can potentially get from the council is starts at 30%. That's the base commission. We automatically get that on every bag or every product that we sell. We got an additional 2% attendance incentive for the event that we already attended. We get an additional 2% for a sales incentive, and that would be for, $500 per scout, which at 26 scouts, that number's, we'll have to verify that. We're somewhere in the range of $13,000. So if the pack hits $13,000, we get an additional 2% on the commission. And then the payment incentive, I don't have it checked here, but this should be a no-brainer. We just have to send our full payment to the council before December 1st, and we get an additional 1%. So out of that, the first $200 of each Scout's sales in products, the Scout gets 0% commission. Everything over $200, they will get 30% commission on. And then for the pack treasury, on that first $200 of products that are sold for each Scout, the pack will get 32 to 35, depending on how many of these incentives we check off. And then everything beyond that first 200, the pack will only get the additional incentives that we earn. The base will go to the Scout. So that's it in a nutshell. I would imagine there's still some questions or concerns. If we want to just open the floor to anyone who might have any additional questions.
Yeah, I just have a quick question for you, Carl. Just to clarify, we don't necessarily have to do the pre-order if we want to do just the taking orders.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. If you strictly want to take orders from family or go door to door and take orders and fill those orders, in November when we get that product, absolutely, you can do that.
Okay.
And all I need to know is you just shoot me an email and say, we don't want any product. We're going to do everything off the order form. Then that's fine. No problem. I just need to know it up front. And I guess that's the big thing right now, right? Like I'm being asked to kind of figure out what's the total order that we want to make for the pack. And number one, I'm not entirely familiar with what we've done maybe 2-3 years ago. I know last year was not a huge number. I think it was largely affected by COVID. So I want to get input.
Carl, I can answer that.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So we initially ordered about $4,000 worth of product. We did not sell all of it. We did end up using a lot of it on the back end to fill paper orders. Mind you, this was also, COVID. So
yeah,
we were able to do a couple show and sells. People were able to do some wagon sales, but ultimately it came down to there just weren't people out and about.
Yeah, no, I'd say last year was the worst year, my kids ever had. Like, we just didn't feel comfortable going out, so we didn't.
So, and I don't have previous numbers off the top of my head because I didn't write those checks.
Sure.
I
And
think in
you know-
years past, hey, can you guys hear me? I think in
Yep.
years past for the initial pre-order, we were anywhere from 10 to 15,000. And it was all set up again because of the show and sell. I want to say we were generally around 10. And the second time, at least the ones that I can remember, the second time we put in an order, it was usually between 5 and 10,000. So we generally went through
Okay.
and did anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 in pre-order sales.
And that's with twice as many scouts.
Almost 3 times, yes.
And I guess I have asked Otto, but I haven't had a response from him yet. I think he's out of town this week. I have asked if there is a predetermined maximum that he has set for each individual pack. I know in years past, when we went to place our order, sometimes there was a discrepancy where they said, well, that's too much. We're not comfortable giving you that much popcorn, based on your previous year's sales. So hopefully they take into account that last year was a COVID year, and would be willing to give us, more than our total sales last year, if that's what we want. But I don't know for sure how that's going to shake out.
In years past, we had gone through, Carl, and the level of hassle that we got was minimal. It was that we had to prove, and I don't remember how we did it, but we had to prove the ability to pay for the popcorn that we had already taken. So if we turned around and said, we already had 13 show and sells and it already netted $7,000 and we'd like another $10,000 worth of popcorn, they would substantiate us doing that. It wasn't that we had to prepay. It wasn't anything else. It was based on that specific year, what they had already given us and what the percentage was that was sold.
Right. Those are for like subsequent orders. I'm just talking about the initial order. I don't even know what they'll allow us to take for the initial order.
Now, Carl, you were saying that like if I order popcorn for David, but say David and Allie want to walk around the neighborhood together, since they live on the same street and sell popcorn together, they can't sell each other's, like we can't put what I have and what Shannon has together for them to sell together.
Well, that would be preferable. But I mean, I suppose we want to keep track very well, right? So if, I would prefer not to be doing I need to keep track of what you have. And I don't want to be weekly trying to, all right, well, I'm moving 3 of Allie's products to David's, and I'm taking 1 of David's to Allie. And I don't want to be doing that on a weekly basis. I mean, we can, it's just, I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. And realistically, it's not that difficult, right? I mean, if David runs out of a product, he takes an order, right? I mean, that's what we've done for years, right? We have these products available. If you want something else, place an order and we'll get it to you in November.
And as far as selling together, if Davey has like a case of the cheese and then Allie has a case of the caramel, I mean, they could go like with 2 wagons with their individual cases. It's just a matter of keeping track of, like, if the neighbor buys a case of the cheese, that's going to come out of Davey's inventory, because it's, but we're not specifically saying, oh, you cannot go side by side or anything.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the 2 of them have some great cuteness factor to go out there together. So
absolutely. And I think, it's like, yes, you can do it that way. Just please keep track of what's going on, because it's going to be very hard to track on the back end. You guys aren't a good record out what you're selling.
So the other situation that I had gone through is, I think where a lot of the families have to try and get their head around this is, if you haven't sold popcorn in the past, like the initial estimate, that my feeling would be, okay, that, the council says you got to do $500. So my initial thing to Carl would be, I'm going to need, at least $500 worth of stuff. And that's what I would put for my pre-order. Now for Dan, I think that was Dan that had asked, could you do all take orders? You would focus on, okay, I've got to sell 500 off of this sheet, and go that route. So take those into consideration now for the order, that if everybody focuses on that 500, it substantiates a little bit easier of the selling. And then, if we have to mix and match some things, we can. And, I don't think, Carl, it's going to be every week, but if we went through and said, hey, this is where we're at, and we could move some stuff every couple of weeks, it's definitely reasonable. But I think everybody should be, in my opinion, is everybody should be focusing on, what does it take to move $500 worth of product?
Yeah, and it's
There we go.
and I know, we've definitely had people in the past that are deathly afraid of taking an order, but don't be. It's easier. I mean, I've done it, several years where we didn't take any product and all we did was take orders. And you don't have to drag a wagon behind you. You can kind of go on your bicycle. You don't have to be walking with a wagon behind you. You can cover more ground. I mean, our biggest year that we didn't take any show and sell product beforehand, I think we sold $1,800 worth of product, and we delivered it all in like an hour. I mean, it was, it took a little time to set up, but you kind of load it all in the car and you drive to all those locations, which are, sort of the same streets you went down, and it goes pretty quick. So it's
I think another thing that mentioned,
once you run out of product,
if you do go door to door and you have the product in hand or on the wagon, it does sell a lot easier though.
Yeah.
So that's something to think about.
It does. I agree. But and that's why I like both, right? I like having some product, but I don't like going crazy and having, all of the, products available. Where it gives them an option if they want to take what we have or place an order.
Or place an order.
Available.
Best of both worlds, right?
the other thing is, the online orders, they can place an online order and you don't have to do anything. It ships right to their house. So if you're doing a show and sell and you don't have the product that they want, you can give them the website and your ID number. They can go right online, right on their phone right there, order it, and it ships to their house. And that also works good for people I mean, I'm sure we all have relatives out of town.
Mhm.
They can go out of town and ships right to their house. You don't have to do anything.
In the past, they had this online thing where your scout could like make their own splash landing page for selling popcorn and a little
Yeah.
avatar and stuff. Is that still available this year?
I'm not sure if it's like,
Yeah,
that-
so I don't know exactly how customized you can make it, but again, in the parent packet, I have a little guide on how to either register a new or update an existing. So, you know, I would recommend that everybody go in there and make sure you have a page and share it with whoever you want. That being said, I have never had much luck selling anything on the online page, and maybe we get 1 or 2 orders a
Yeah.
year.
That's been our
It-
experience too. Like,
Yeah.
but what I like is that it's a fire and forget, right? You set it up, you hand it
Exactly.
out, and then you don't have to do
Yeah.
anything else.
I mean, Kim put the Facebook link on her Facebook page or the link on her Facebook page, and Ethan got 2 or 3 orders without having to do anything.
Sure. Yeah, and you know, some people are great at it and can probably sell, you know, tons of popcorn on it. So I mean, if it's your thing, go for it. But I
Sounds
would
like we got
recommend
some
that everyone at
options.
least set up the page, you know.
Right. So you got a few options here on different ways that we can sell popcorn here. And you know, one of the things we talked earlier was about risk. And I just to make it clear, and I think I'm mostly understanding, but I just want to make sure if I pre-order and I let you know, hey, I want to get so many cases of this, so many cases of that, I'm not giving you any money. Like there's no money out of my wallet at that point. And
No.
like whatever I can
No.
sell, great. But what I don't sell, I just return, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes,
Oh.
even the products that council will not take back,
Right.
the you know, the Buffalo Bills popcorn and the, you know, 6-pack of popping corn, the pack will take it back. You know,
Yeah.
hopefully we can fill orders and we don't have to, you know, lose money on it, but there's no risk to any family.
Yeah, I know that was one of the big issues that Pete had was families up putting money up front, and we're not asking anybody to put money up front. You
I
sell your
think
popcorn.
that 6-pack of popping corn for $10 really ain't that's gonna be a pretty good seller. in
It's
my
usually a
opinion.
good seller, yeah, too.
I think that was gonna be a good seller.
And a Bills tin. I mean, if
My
you can't sell a
preference
Bills
is
tin around here.
my preference is the $15 to $25 range. I don't want to have any $10 products with me, so I can always
Yeah.
sell something a little more expensive.
Yeah.
But you know,
My kids were not happy. when
they do
the-
sell well. I mean,
My kids were not happy with the new buttered popcorn versus the old buttered popcorn because it was not the same.
Yeah.
I still have boxes of that crap from last year. They haven't eaten it.
Was it the
I guess
roasty
the-
one or the buttery whatever?
It was the summer popcorn one. They don't like it.
No,
Oh, I was gonna say the movie theater one was good.
no.
Yeah, they
Sure.
don't like the summer one.
I guess one other thing I'd like to touch on is the card readers. So we're not entirely sure. The pack has some card readers that we're not positive if they're all going.
Taylor, do you want to jump in on that
The
quick?
Camp Master system.
Yeah, Carl, I can take that one. So, with the previous popcorn company, we were able to use square readers. Couple of problems with the square readers. One, Camp Masters does not take square, they use pay anywhere. Two, the square readers require you to have a phone old enough that it still has a headphone dongle. So, for anybody not sure what I'm talking about. So this connector here, if you can no longer plug headphones into your phone, you can no longer plug a square reader into your phone without an adapter.
There are phones without those adapters anymore? I'm kidding.
I was gonna say, you are the last person who should be saying that to me.
I don't know.
Couldn't
I love
couldn't I
crafting
just
Apple.
couldn't I just take, like, if I'm walking around the neighborhood with products, couldn't I just like say to my neighbor, hey, you can PayPal me, and then when
then
I
you
hand
pay
them can I just do that?
I wouldn't. Look, you guys can do it however you want. I would not recommend anything like that.
Can we-
I take app and check only. I've never used a card reader. The only time it's ever maybe been an issue is when I've attended my last show and sell, probably, 6-7 years ago, which I'll never do again. But if you go to somebody's house, they always have either a check or cash or check. It's
Your
never been a
treasurer,
problem.
for the record, is a millennial and hates checks, but that's just me.
I always let my
I mean,
friends pay me with
I-
PayPal, and
you
then I
know,
just write the packet
look.
check. I've done it every year.
I'm
That would be fine.
right. I'm on the same page. I mean, I might write 5 checks a year, but I still have a checkbook.
I mean, I have one,
Well, there you go.
but I also pay my rent with Venmo.
So, what did you call it? So it's not Square. It's, did you say Pay Anywhere?
Yeah, so Pay Anywhere is the company that Camp Masters uses. We can get one for a reader. I do also have the Bluetooth PayPal reader that is connected directly to the PayPal. It's not necessarily a password I want to give.
Does
Ouch.
Pay Anywhere have the option where like you can take a credit card payment without a reader? I know some of the ones in the past you could like, I mean, it was painstaking long typing in all those numbers, but I don't know if Pay Anywhere has that option.
That was before we switched to Camp Masters. I didn't do any show and sells last year, Vu, so I have no idea.
Do we know if the app takes credit cards? They said there's an app also.
Maybe. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. I was trying to find it real quick and can't find it.
Camp Masters Popcorn. Let's see what we got.
I couldn't find it. I found a bunch of games.
I was gonna say I got Count Masters. I got a balloon pop game.
Yeah. So I don't know what it's under.
It may actually be the Pay Anywhere app.
Oh, wait. Camp Masters Popcorn. Let's see about the app. Pay Anywhere credit card program. Okay.
Oh, and this I remember why we didn't get the I remember why we didn't get the credit card readers. They charge 2.69% for every major credit card company swipe.
Yeah. Cash or check. Let's go for it. Skip those silly card readers.
The thing I will say about having your friends pay you with PayPal, obviously the pack takes PayPal now, right? So I can't exactly say don't do that, but at the end of the day, you as the family who are selling the popcorn are ultimately responsible for making sure that you pay for the popcorn you sell and that you take. So that's all I'm gonna say on that from my perspective. Like I said, we have the one credit card reader for use at meetings. Again, that goes directly to the camp PayPal, and that's a whole lot of stuff for me to keep track of on top of just popcorn and volume in general, because now I've got to sort out.
Well, I've always just like my friend Joelle orders off my sheet. She PayPals me, and then when I hand in my order sheet, I just write a big old check for everything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
But that's me.
in that case, if you're leaving us out of that, then
Yeah.
and you're just giving us
Yeah.
a check, I don't have any problem with that. But
Yeah.
I don't want to participate in it. But if that's how you want to do it, I'm not going to stop.
Yeah, like if I'm walking around the
Preferable
neighborhood
that
with
way, it makes it
David and
easier, right?
somebody's like, "Oh, I don't have any cash or anything. Can I PayPal you?" I'd be like, "Yeah, sure." So
PayPal, Venmo, however you want to collect your individual payments. Like I said, I'm not giving out the pack PayPal reader only because again, it is linked directly to the camp or to the pack PayPal. And I would have to give you the password and give you access to the pack PayPal.
And which we're not doing. It's not an option. It's not.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Right.
Yep.
Can I have him PayPal you, Kelly, and you write me a check?
Brian, can you then PayPal me and write me a check too?
I don't PayPal nobody. Nobody gets my
Alright,
bank
check.
information.
Ryan refuses to use PayPal.
I will not. use
PayPal and
PayPal.
Venmo are my best friends.
Until somebody steals all your bank information. Your bank
All right,
account is
so
free.
based on all of the stuff that we have right now, there was a lot of good questions. Does anybody else have questions?
I
Like
just
we can
want,
talk about and we can go through best practices at any point. You know, Carl had said if somebody wanted to walk with him, and Brian, you have the ability to use mom
Right.
and dad's nursery. There's
I
a
just-
lot of great things that are out there that we can talk about. Does anybody else have questions?
I just want
I
to
think
know
we
if
need to
there's,
talk about the buyout.
yep,
Hang
that's
on,
coming
Brian
up.
first.
I just want to know if, is there an interest in the show and sell either at the church or the nursery? Should I set it up? I mean, as far as the nursery goes, I was told anybody, anytime, just let her know you're coming. So we can have a table there. You can show up any day you want, as long as they're open. Is there an interest in that?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
And what about the church? Should we set up a day at the church? I know me and Taylor
Yes.
did it last year. We made a couple $100 for 2 hours sitting in front of the church.
So
All right.
it was 2 hours for sitting in front of the church for a couple $100 in the middle of a pandemic.
What did we do?
So
300 or 250 each, I think. Something like that.
I want to say it was just under 2 each. The boys cleaned out on the caramel popcorn bags. That I remember.
Yep.
So at $400 for a couple of hours in the middle of a pandemic, that like on average, I think our numbers were $250 per 2 hours per scout was the average number across all of our show and sells when we were in the heat of the game. So I think in front of the church, being on a busy corner, if the church is going to allow that, I think that's a super opportunity for people to do it. It also sends out, like, one of the things with the show and sells that was a big problem, and I don't want to belabor this, was we would go through and say, yeah, we're going to work with value. And we would set up on a Saturday and on a Sunday to have 3 shifts at 2 hours apiece to book the weekend. And the next thing you know, the middle shift at 12 o'clock, somebody wouldn't show up. Somebody couldn't transfer the goods. Somebody couldn't pick the stuff up. There was just a bunch of empty holes and we couldn't get people to fill it fast enough. So moving the product, et cetera, it was an absolute pain. So that's where these show and sells that Brian would set up, or, you know, an individual family going to set up, like Carl said, there's a little bit of legwork that goes into the beginning, but it allows you to go through and do it and set up that, hey, you know what, I'm going to work 2 hours, or I'm going to stay an extra hour, or I'm only going to put in an hour. One great thing that I'll tell you that I found, and I'm telling you, I think this year it's going to blow up. I walked the Buffalo Bills games. I did the preseason games. I will tell you, it is unbelievable what you can do with tailgaters in a 1 hour period.
Don't steal my ideas.
It's everybody's free idea. Do you know the amounts
I'm
of
just
parking
kidding.
lots that are in Orchard Park? It's ridiculous to go through and do it. I did
Oh, yes.
one parking lot. I did $600 in 1 hour.
Oh, yeah.
So I will tell you, it's unbelievable. So that's why for me, guys, and we're going to transition now kind of into the, if nobody else has questions, into the buyout. That's another reason why I just don't think it's reasonable. You can go through and you can walk your street and sell $500 worth of popcorn. You can go through and sit in front of the church for 2 2-hour periods and sell $500. You could go to a Bills game in 1 hour, drive out to Orchard Park and sell $600. So to go through and ask for a $500 commitment, it's work for a parent. Yeah, it's work for a scout, but like that's part of it. And then you go through and you don't have to substantiate funding later on. So I think the availability to go and do what we're talking about, I will tell you that back to back years, I did $2,500 per boy. And at times, everybody that knows me knows that I had 2 boys in the pack at the same time. What does that do? That's $5,000 worth of sales myself. And I did not kill myself to go do it. Everybody that knows me knows I wouldn't. So it's very easy to go through and do. Yes, you have to put some time into it. It's a commitment, but it works. Does anybody else have any questions?
I'm kind of just not
John,
confused. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm just,
Sorry,
I'm
go ahead,
not
Aaron.
confused, but it just seems like there's not a lot of, like you said, bagged popcorn, and that's what I sold a lot of. It seems like there's less product. Am I,
There's
am I like,
actually, you're reading it wrong. If you look across that sell sheet that's on there, I think the number of products is actually increased than when we did Trails End,
This
but the
company
package
just,
is different.
yeah, they just put it in a tin instead of a bag. It's,
And they use a
okay.
box instead of a bag. That's all.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. The availability,
So
they
it should be-
actually,
it should be just as easy to sell, right? 'Cause we do it at the campground,
Yep.
and the drunk people sitting around their campfires at night with
Yep.
2 little
It's not
kids
just-
walking up.
So
is
Aaron, it's not just
gold.
popcorn either. Like you're gonna get, there's trail mix in there. There's nuts and peanut packages that are in there. So you have the ability to go through and take way more. Like sitting around the fire punching back a bunch of beers, they might not want popcorn, but if you can sell bags of nuts and bags of trail mix, like they have they do have more variety. That was one of the huge benefits from switching to Trails End to Camp Masters.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Vu brought up a good point also, that this is Carl's only year doing this with us, because I don't think he's got anybody else in the pipeline joining the pack. So the job will be open again next year, and it certainly would help if somebody were to shadow him to see how things work. So if there's any interest, now's the time to speak up, because next year we're going to be in the same situation we were this year. So hopefully we can get somebody on board and familiar with the process.
I would also like to point out that I will not be doing this again next year.
We know that.
So if someone wants to shadow me, popcorn is a really good time to shadow me just based on the volume, and I could absolutely use the help.
So, you know, we need help, and that's one of the things me and John are talking about. Our pack is getting smaller and smaller, yet we still have the same amount of jobs that we need to fill. So please step up if you're interested. It's no job in this pack is really hard, but when people start doing multiple jobs, it really gets overwhelming. So we need the help.
Can I make a suggestion just on the recruitment side? You know, we're going to be starting to go door to door to lots of different neighborhoods in Cheektowaga starting, you know, in a month or so. Do we want to, you know, make sure we have some sort of door hanger or flyer or card or something that we can hand out whenever we see, you know, scout age children at a house that we visit?
Yeah, we can. I believe they're going to give us stuff August 2nd, so I can see what they got for us, or I can ask if they don't give us something. What
If they also have, Brian, if they just have a digital image that they're willing to give to you,
right?
For whatever it is, like as long as it runs 8.5 by 11, like standard sheet of paper.
Yeah.
If they email you the image, I will get as many copies, Carl, as you can carry.
All right.
All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns? All right. So
Just want to push again. You know, John, we really got to get more folks on board with volunteering with these. And it doesn't mean that somebody has to be like, I mean, somebody will be the popcorn kernel next year, but it doesn't have to be one person running the whole thing. I mean, you know, a lot of these things we do as a team. Right. I mean, this past the thing with the summer camp build. I mean, Kelly and Aaron and I worked on it together. I mean, I only took like the lead on that because you needed somebody in that position. Exactly. But like most of the ideas were Aaron and Kelly, and I was, you know, kind of, you know, like, yeah, absolutely. I helped make it happen. But popcorn can be the same thing. You know, I think everybody gets very, very nervous about the popcorn kernel position, and like, understandably, it's a lot of work. It's probably the only position that like Haley and I have agreed, like, you know, that in the past, I'm not taking it. I'll be cut master, but I won't be a popcorn kernel. But it doesn't have to be a one-person job. I've already done my role. I've done my stint.
Oh,
yeah, okay. In another unit, but okay. But you know, for next year, really consider, you know, even if you don't want to be popcorn kernel, I strongly urge folks, you know, be a part of a group that's helping making these decisions and making it work, right? You don't even have to put on a tan shirt for it, right? A lot of the folks in this room, in this Zoom, are already doing multiple roles, but if we can get it out to those parents, hey, we need a minimum of 2-3 other parents who will be a part of working with Carl to be a part of popcorn this year, so that next year we're not starting fresh or stuck with just one person having to make 24-hour decisions, right? Like it's kind of a put up, participate, be a part of it. So that's my soapbox.
Thanks, Phil. All right, so final topic right now to close out. Last year the buyout was $40. We lowered the buyout, and we simply did. I'll tell you, there was no mathematical equation to it. It was a subjective number.
Weird place.
And we went through and had it at $60 from years past. It never changed because again, it wasn't a big consideration for everybody. So we didn't have it too crazy. Then we dropped it for the pandemic, knowing that, you know, myself included, I wasn't going out to kill myself to sell popcorn in the middle of a pandemic. I wasn't comfortable with it. You know, I hit the minimums that I needed to deal with, and that's where I was at. And I'll tell you, I think the minimum that we had last year was $200 as well. And I had trouble sticking around 200. Like I want to say Liam did $400 or $500 last year, and it was hard. It was hard for me to go through and get down to $200. Like they made their sales. It kind of, in the cases when you go to walk or do something, it sells itself. And although I can't still get my head around, like Carl, how people just shell out, hey, I want to do $25, bags of popcorn, it works. So the buyout portion of it was subjective last year at $40. 60 was the prior year, and this year the 150 was a mathematical equation based on the 500. What are you guys thinking? What are you feeling?
The 60 is still a mathematical equation, because if the minimum you want us to sell is 200, 30% of that, which is the pack commission, is $60. I understand what council's saying around the 500, but you are setting the minimum for families at 200.
I'm gonna mute.
You need to keep the buyout as 30% of that.
Well, I think raising it above that level helps motivate people to sell.
I agree.
Yeah, but you have families
On the flip
in here
side,
with
thank you for not
multiple
raising the
scouts, and
minimum
that's
to
not fair.
500 to match what council says we should be selling. That would have sucked.
Well, I mean, I think, I get that one, multiple kids selling. I mean, you could maybe have, cut those folks a break maybe.
My issue is if a scout sells more than $200, most of that money is going to go into their scout account, with an exception of 1 to 2%, which if you sell $1,000, that's $10. So I don't want to, and I talked to you about this yesterday, John, I don't want the pack to make money because a scout can't or doesn't want to sell popcorn. I don't think that's fair. I think the scout sells $200, the pack gets 60. The scout sells $1,000, the pack gets like $76. So if we make it 150, we're punishing our own families for whatever reason they can't or don't want to sell popcorn, and I don't think that's right. I understand we want to encourage them to do it, but if they sell $1,000, the pack is not making that much more than if they only sell the 200. The scout will be making a considerable amount, and that's where they're going to get penalized, is they're not going to have that money in their account to use for camp or whatever else they want to use it for. And I can't in good conscience penalize somebody where we're not going to be making the money anyways.
So the next situation right now is in a perfect world, nobody right now should have to do the buyout. We should be able to, as a pack, provide enough outs, enough opportunities, enough situations for them to go through and say, hey, we're gonna end up producing $200 per scout. And for the families that are out there that are doing, I think the biggest complaint that I've heard is from families that have multiple scouts, not from families that have one scout that are saying, I don't want to sell $200. And my answer to that, Brian, like you just made that comment, and I told you, I'm willing to sit on the firing line for this. You're telling me right now that there's a parent out there that says, I don't want to sell popcorn. I appreciate what you're saying. It's not my requirement. It's not PEC 554's requirement. Council requires for us to participate in the program that you have to sell popcorn. So in that particular case, you have to sell. So I'm sorry, Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so, I'm sorry that you feel that way, but just like if you're going to play on the Regals hockey team, you have to participate in their fundraiser. Our scout group across the country requires that you sell popcorn. So you have to do it. I don't know the history in our pack of how we got a buyout, but I'm telling you, we're one of very few packs that are out there that have a strategic buyout. Most of the packs that are out there that I've heard of and that I've talked to in the last couple of years operate on a per family basis, where they go through and make a specific deal with that family because there's so few, and they don't give it an option. There's no option of a buyout. You have to sell $200. Okay, well, I couldn't sell $200. Great, let's go through and talk about that. They don't turn around and just say, hey, stroke us a check because you don't feel like it. So I think people need to think about that too. And then lastly, Brian, you opened the meeting with the idea of how many families right now are looking at a buyout? Let's talk about that. There's 26 kids in the pack. There's 9 families right now potentially represented on this phone call. Where are the people right now that are talking about a buyout? And what are some of the reasons so that we can help to maybe legitimatize, should we even have a buyout? Kelly, you know right now that you're absolutely going to sell over $200 worth of stuff. So a buyout's not an option for you, right?
No,
You're
I
gonna
know
go
I'm
through and
going. I know I'm going to sell it, but I also
Right.
have to sell popcorn for the troop. So
Yep.
it's not just me selling. I have 2 separate minimums I have to meet. And if for some reason I can't make it for one of my 2 kids, I'm going to buy one of them out. Now, we typically, the Fargianos, usually sell between the 2 boys around $500-$600 worth of popcorn. However, there could be, for some reason, it may not happen. Like, it was a struggle this year because, my school, none of the teachers were there. I didn't have my normal audience of people that I sell to. Normally I throw this thing out on the sign out sheet at school and all this stuff, and I get all the teachers in my building buying popcorn. That's not my kids out there selling the popcorn. That's me doing it.
So it sounds like if you're gonna have to do a buyout, I'd suggest going with the troops buyout because theirs is only $75, right?
Yeah.
So ladies first.
John, I mean,
let's talk
we're
about
asking,
that too. What's
we're
the difference
asking
right now with
for-
us from the troop? What if we did $75? It's more
Yeah,
than
but
60.
the troop is also asking a higher minimum.
Because
Right,
right now the
so-
council's requiring 500.
If you're gonna have to do,
That's what I'm saying. It's a
if you have to
catch-22.
do a buyout on one of them. Mathematically, it's better to do the $200 minimum with the pack and do a $75 buyout with the troop, right?
Right.
I agree with you though, Kelly. It was hard selling it. Not even just COVID, but like you said, we weren't at work.
Yeah, we didn't.
I still don't see family members.
Yeah.
Even to this day. So it was a tough year to even get our minimum last year. But I mean,
So
I'm going to
what
try
if
my ass off. But
Well, what if we
it's
did?
hard.
What if we did this, guys? What if we turned around and said, okay, your buyout right now is going to be, $60, but the rest of the people that are out there, you're required to sell 300. Does that make it okay?
No.
What's
our,
the troop's minimum? Does anyone know that? What's the troop minimum?
I think the troop
is
minimum is 250.
Oh, their buyout is 75, but their minimum is 250.
Yeah. You have to sell 250.
Yeah.
John, we're
It's
asking
catch-22.
we're asking for a minimum of $60 from a scout. I don't understand whether we get it in the form of a commission or a check or 3 $20 bills, what really the difference is. I understand we're supposed to sell popcorn, but the incentive to sell popcorn is if you sell more than $200, that goes into your Scouts account and you don't pay for summer camp or you don't pay for a sleepover or you don't pay for other things. That to me is enough incentive to go out and sell more popcorn, not the fact that I'm going to have to, pay a higher buyout. We're asking for $60 from each Scout, basically. Like I said, the 1 to 2% for anything over $200 really amounts to pennies.
Yeah.
We're asking
Brian, I agree with you. Even though
give me three
council
$20 bills, you paid your $60. You just don't. You're going to be paying for summer camp come next year because you didn't sell more popcorn.
Yeah, because Brian, you're right. Because even though council is saying they want each of our Scouts to sell 500,
Right.
the PAC doesn't get 30% commission of
we
that
get
500.
1%. This is $5. I mean,
Right.
And in the meanwhile, we may be turning a family away or causing financial difficulty on a family for no reason.
Wait a second. I thought that if a family needs to do a buyout, aren't they coming to talk to you first? Are we not having that communication? Because I thought that there is that if somebody has to do a buyout, like they would talk to you first and see what options are. I mean, shouldn't this be treated on a case-by-case basis?
It should be, Vu. I agree with you, but this was always, and Brian, I told you this was part of the culture of the PAC and always has been. When you come into the PAC, you sign your registration, you pay your dues, and we turn around and say, if you choose not to sell popcorn, which is required, then you can go through and do a buyout.
Right.
And it's not a case-by-case basis. And no, they don't come in and say, hey, you know what, John, hey, Brian, hey, leaders, can I get my kid to pal up with your kid because I work weekends? So can you help me out with the show and sell? Can you do this? Can you do that? What options do you guys have for me to try and make the money? We just turn around and throw it out there. Hey, you don't feel like it. You don't want to walk and sell with your kid. You don't want the opportunity to stand out. No problem. Here's your buyout. And that's, to me, that's just unfair.
Well, again, my incentive to sell more is so I don't have to pay $300 for summer camp come next year. And if that's not the incentive for you, then pay your $300, give us $60 and pay your $300 for summer camp.
I'd sell $200 worth of popcorn and go through and give me this way. So council's satisfied. Go through and sell your $200 and then give me your $300 for summer camp.
Right. Well, you know, above that $200, now I start knocking down what I'm going to have to pay for things throughout the year.
Yep. I agree with
if you don't want to sell anything, you want to hand me three $20 bills and give me a check for summer camp, I don't see what the difference is. I understand. We're still making the same amount of money, and your incentive to sell popcorn should be the fact that you don't have to pay for things throughout the year.
All right, so Don, what if you set the buy, and you know, again, this might, I'm not sure how many people this impacts, but what if we now just decide to just set the buyout to like 75 to match the troop, right?
You know, that
the amount that the pack profits off of the scout,
right,
whether they sell a minimum of 200 or they do a $75 buyout, is minimal. And even if they sell like $1,000 worth of popcorn, I mean, it barely matches the $75.
I mean, if a scout
anyway,
sells
right?
$500, we're going to get $66. If a scout sells $500, we get $66.
Right. And do we want to set the buyout at 66 then and see how many people take the buyout as opposed to selling? I mean, it sounds like that's what the big issue is, right? Like everybody, right? We don't want the buyout to be the pack profiting from the buyout, right? And we've mathematically proven that $66 is what the pack would have gotten if the scout sold 1,000, and if they do the minimum of 200, then the pack would just make 60. So if we make that, more in line, right?
Let me ask this though, and let me throw this in because this is a global concept. Right now, the $60, I want to go back to the $260 or $270 mathematically that it costs the pack to put a kid through the program.
Yep.
$260, $270. We turn around for popcorn and we say, okay, you can pay $60. Now we have no other required. We have not in 2 years. We have no other required fundraisers. Why should my kid, why should Brian's kid, why should somebody else's scout have to go through and pay the additional $200 for that scout to get through the program? Because they're not required to do anything else that's out there.
Fundraisers.
Yeah,
we have to talk about.
Well, that's it.
Well, I told you back at awards that we could do the pierogi dinner night.
Right.
And
I understand.
I mean, I have another required fundraiser we could do.
Because historically, right now, again, it's a change in culture. The change that we have with going through and requiring it, there has never been in the last 2 years, we have got a ton of feedback at the committee level, negative feedback. You can't require us to go do something. Since the meat raffle was gone, you couldn't require that we were going to go through and do this, this, and this. And what we all have to understand conceptually is not only can we not find volunteers, we need to be able to substantiate payment for these scouts. And at $260 or $270 a scout, we have to find another way to raise $200 if we simply allow the buyout to be $200 or $60.
I agree that we have a budgetary and fundraising issue, but it sounds like that the increased buyout amount is an attempt to fix that problem by putting it on the popcorn. And I think that's a quick approach at it, but if we don't have a lot of people doing the buyout anyways, it won't solve that problem.
No,
I think
you're only
going
to get $300 or $400.
I'm really thinking for popcorn, it might be prudent to just lower it back down to something that's more comparable to what we would be expecting to take in if a scout sells popcorn, so it matches whichever option they go with. And then we do very, very badly need to have a budgetary and fundraising meeting to address the other $200 that we need to raise for the scout.
Can I suggest something that we move? Maybe we change the language. We stop using the word buyout and we require that everyone pay dues. And we're going to need to review the budget and review fundraising needs to determine what the dues needs to be. But set it, whatever the level is. It's got nothing to do with this conversation. We
I'm-
call it dues, and
Really,
then there are,
We already paid dues.
you can participate in
Yeah.
one, or you can participate in, 50 fundraisers throughout the year to pay for that dues, or you can pay that dues out of your pocket. I don't
So-
really like the term buyout. I don't like forcing people into doing any fundraiser. If you want to pay out of pocket the whole year, pay out of pocket. My preference is to fundraise. My other preference is to fundraise once. I want to participate hard in popcorn and not do any other fundraisers the rest of the year.
Just
All right,
in
so
the interest of
everybody,
time, though, 'cause it's
everybody
an
on
hour
this
and a half
call,
in.
I was gonna say, everybody on this call has got a lot of good information right now. I think it's fair to go through with the people that's on this call because nobody else attended and we can't throw a meeting up. I think it's good to go through. Does anyone have any other questions about what this buyout / changing the opportunity for folks? Does anyone have questions about what that is?
Are we
Cool.
deciding
All right.
to change until we have a better term, are we for now deciding to change the buyout amount for people who decide not to sell?
I think we should do that right now.
I think so too.
Agreed.
So I think that each person that's on this call, I think is you had the ability to get on the call. Everybody else had the ability to not get on the call. I think everybody in this call, there's 9 people roughly. Dual people from the same family don't get dual votes. And I think we should go through and vote on what that number should be. Does that all seem reasonable?
Sounds good to me. What's the proposed amount?
I'm proposing $75 match the troop.
All right.
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine. That's fine with me.
It's okay with me.
Yeah, I'm good with that. That's more reasonable.
That's fine.
I think that's good.
Okay, everybody on this call then I think is aye in favor of the $75 change. And then I think the rest of the stuff we'll obviously deal with at the committee level to go
Right.
through for fundraising and change. I have no issue with that. Can we get an email out to everybody that says the minimum sale amount for our pack is $200? Our minimum buyout is $75. We need not quote that we match the troop with it. But I think that's a reasonable number. And then it also, if you are doing the buyout, those families are required to talk to Brian or myself. And it needs to, that choice needs to be done and paid by a certain amount of time, which we can decide very, very shortly, Brian. Because I don't want to get it that a bunch of people try and sell what they can and then they got to figure out that they're doing a buyout. I want to help them if they're going to do the sales to be successful with the sales.
Okay.
Mhm.
I think that's fair. Anybody else have any other questions?
So 75.
Contrary to popular belief. Yep,
You want me to-
75 is,
Do you want me to include the commission schedule in that too again?
I
Just to
think that would
kinda
be fair.
give
one
people a
last
kick in the butt.
One last change that we had, Carl, you didn't talk about it, and I know I'm kind of raising this last minute, but I forgot about it. He had reached out and said that if a scout sells over $500, they get an extra %. I think my vote would be to absolutely do that, but I think the contingency has to be that we hit the 5%. The pack as a whole has to hit the 5%. And then we would go through and we would give the additional 1%. So that's allowing them, now we can discuss it, but that's the next thing that we have to talk about before the show and sell start.
No animated.
So I like the idea of the 1%, but I think that should be tied to the success of everybody, doing good. Does everyone understand what that means that's in this call?
Yes.
1% given to any sale over $500 as long as the pack attains the total 5%, which is the 2% we already hit for the meeting. Another 2% is automatically going to be done when we pay early. So the last one I think is 1% for hitting our minimum amount sold for the council, correct?
2% for the sales, 1% for the final payment.
Okay, so we're automatically getting 3% right now. The contingency
Yeah.
on the $500 would be the 2% if we hit the minimum goal.
Right. Okay.
That's up. We'll talk about that for, say, we have to do that, Carl and Brian, before, I would say, the delivery of the pre-purchase.
Okay, yeah, well, yeah, we've got time for that. That's the 20th, right?
Yep. All right, cool. I think everything went great. I appreciate the feedback for everybody. I truly appreciate everybody getting on the call that did. It means a lot. I hate seeing the same familiar faces, but I always, expect that we get good from it. So, you guys did a great job. Nobody has any other questions? I'm good.
No. John, Brian, I will try and get the info from Kelly about doing the pierogi dinners.
Okay.
And then we can decide from there what we want to do.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. Thank you all. I appreciate it. Thank you for the time.
But that could be a pack fundraiser, not a scout fundraiser.
I think when we do the budget between Brian and Taylor and I, it's got to be, we're going to have some different discussions on what that's all going to look like for every fundraiser that we have now carried forward.
Yeah, because losing the meat raffle, we have to make that up, and that's what we talked about 2 years ago.
I don't know why why can't we bring the meat raffle back this year?
You're running it?
I was just going to say, who's going to pony up?
Find someone to run it. I'll be more than happy to bring it back.
Listen, Aaron.
No, don't even say Aaron. Exactly. We need.
Aaron
that's honestly the biggest thing is if somebody wants to run it, yeah, I'm all for it. But we can't even.
I'll talk to Aaron, but there's been a lot of virtual meat raffles this year.
Yeah.
All right, so fundraisers are a whole nother topic. Like you said, we tickled that hour and a half. Everybody did a great job.
Yep.
Let's close up for this one, and Brian, you and I will touch base for what we have to do.
Okay.
First for budget, then for schedule.
All right, sounds good.
All right, thank you, everybody.
All right,
have a good night.
Yep.
Good
night.
Bye-bye.
Right.